Good evening. Just days after celebrating his 18th birthday, a family from Sydney's northwest is tonight mourning their son's death after a catastrophic workplace accident. A gigantic scaffold at a construction site collapsed at Macquarie Park near Ryde this afternoon, crashing down on workers below.
8 floors of scaffolding reduced to a pile of twisted metal. There are workers buried underneath and mates rush to help.
I hear people in there screaming, help us, help us, help us, ow, ow, and screaming with pain.
Tradie Albert Muscat grabbed his tools.
The whole metal fell on them. So we start cutting scaffold with the grinders, with the hammers, and throwing back.
But the screaming then stopped.
But after maybe 20 minutes, we didn't hear no more sound of them.
Still in shock, Albert then tells us what happened.
I see the whole damn thing coming down. So then people start running, but this one's here, I could run nowhere. And the whole thing came down on them.
Emergency crews with heavy equipment rushed to the apartment development in Macquarie Park. Their immediate task to establish how many people were trapped, to try to rescue them as quickly as possible. But before long, the news filtered through, workers consoling each other as the parents of 18-year-old Patrizia Cassaniti attended the scene after learning of their son's death. The young apprentice celebrated his birthday last Wednesday.
As you'd expect, they are devastated to lose their 18-year-old son, new to this industry, early in his working life, and to lose his life doing a job. It's atrocious.
Another worker was taken in a critical condition to Royal North Shore Hospital. But there was a lucky escape for 2 others who were on top of the scaffolding when it came down.
Some bricklayers working up on the top deck, they jumped back onto the balcony. They wouldn't be here now.
The construction site is now a crime scene. Police and safe work investigators are here on the ground while the union is circling and claiming too many workers are dying on the job.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BillyJoe Podcast. I'm your co-host Joe.
And I'm Billy.
Thanks for being with us once again. This is episode 7. This one's a special one. This one hits close to home. Our next special guest is none other than Patrizia Cassaniti. Patricia, welcome.
Thanks, Joey, for having me here.
Don't be silly. Thank you for coming in. I know you got a busy schedule.
Yes.
You and Rob are constantly on the road, and thank you for squeezing us in. You were saying tomorrow, where are you off tomorrow?
We're off to Cobar on the way via Dubbo.
Nice. How far is that?
About 7 hours.
7 hours. Nice.
Driving.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And last week, where were you?
Melbourne.
In Melbourne. Fantastic. William.
Joseph, how are you?
Good.
Trisha, welcome.
Thank you for having me here as well. And
absolute pleasure. I know Joey's obviously touched on how busy you are, which we are very grateful to have you here. And thank you so much for taking the time out.
Not a problem at all.
And it's a good episode today.
Today is going to be like I said, it is a special one, and it is going to get tough at times, and it's, as we're going to discuss with Patricia, I don't know how you do it, Patricia, but before we get into it, can you tell us about yourself?
Sure.
Where does your story start? Where were you born? Where are you from? When did you meet Rob? Can you tell us the love story?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was born in Germany, so...
Were you?
I was.
Mm. Oh, okay.
Didn't see that one coming.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I migrated to Australia in 1982.
Okay.
As a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And pretty much started school. Went to school in Germany as well, so I speak German.
So you speak fluent German?
I do, yes.
Can you say something?
What would you like
Anything?
to say?
Just say, my name's Patricia. I had a cracker day today.
Just say g'day.
Yeah, something.
Ich heiße Patrizia. Ich bin aus Deutschland. Ich komme aus Deutschland, bin hier da geboren.
Right.
Wow. I had no idea.
Really?
Me too.
I thought you were Italian.
I am. My
That was my
parents
next
are
question.
Italian.
You're Italian, aren't you?
Yes,
Of
my
course, yeah.
parents are both Italian. They migrated to Germany and I was born there. And
Okay.
then we migrated to Australia in 82 and started our lives here and never looked back. So
Wow.
my family pretty much in Australia is myself, my sister, and my mum and dad.
Yeah.
And my parents have a very big family. So my mum has 14 brothers and children all over Germany and Italy, and my dad's got 5. So we have a very big family in Europe, but we're the only ones here in Australia.
Wow.
You still obviously keep in contact with everybody
We
overseas
do.
and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff?
of course. Yeah, I was there last year.
Yep, in Germany.
Spent about 2 months in Europe, obviously exploring Europe, which I've never done, and spent some time with the family because I just feel that I still have not grieved Christopher, and it's now been 6 years, and I thought maybe going back to my roots and seeing my family that I could actually start the grieving process. It didn't happen.
Didn't help.
No. I'm just, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission, and I feel that this is obviously the way I'm grieving. This is the way I cope with my grief and the way I'm able to process my everyday life. I live on a daily basis. Being a parent that has lost a child is probably one of the worst things that can happen in life. I don't think there's anything that compares to it. And for me, I live for my 2 boys, my living children, Adriano and Michael. They are my priority in life. And if they were not here, I don't think I'd be here.
So is every day a nightmare?
100%. Every day, every single day, I wake up and it's the memories there when I go to bed, when I put my head down on the pillow. I think of all the different scenarios, finding out when he died. The worst thing for me is actually identifying him, and it replays in my mind every single day.
This one's we're only 5 minutes in.
Yeah, didn't expect to touch
And,
on it so early, to be honest.
And I don't know how we're going to go for an hour and a half, Patricia.
Patricia, sorry, can you just bring the mic a bit closer to you, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I did warn you.
No, you're fine. You're good. You're good.
I did warn you. Look, I always say this. I don't sugarcoat my son's death. What happened to Christopher should never have happened. And I have been on a mission since the moment he died to make sure that people understand how precious life is. And no one should ever go to work and die.
I couldn't agree more. Obviously, we're surrounded by the industry.
Yes.
They do emphasize a lot about safety, and they always do. Like when you on a construction site, they all say we're going to come here, do our job, and go home safely. It's always embedded in you when you're always on site and stuff, but you never really think it's going to happen.
No, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd send my son to work and never come home. He'll never come through my front door to say, "Mum, I'm home." And it was all because of a complacent decision that was made. And for me, it's I'm not going to accept it. I'll never accept it. And I think that's part of the grieving process, that I haven't allowed myself to accept that he will never come home. But unfortunately, that's the way I'm grieving, and that's the way I'm coping. The only way that I can get through this is knowing that I impact workers out there by being able to speak to them and making them understand that they need to make their family the reason why they go to work safe, because that's the only reason why we go to work in the first place.
Yeah. We'll get to what life looks like for you now.
Sure.
In a moment, Patricia. Can we just role play for now and
Yep.
just talk about what life was when Christopher was here? How good was it? how were the boys growing up? How was Rob as a father? How were you as a mother? What was Christopher like? Can we touch on those
Sure.
points?
Well, I met Rob in 1988.
Yeah.
I was still at school. I was doing my year 12.
What school did you go to?
Peterboard High School in North Ryde. Doesn't actually exist anymore, but it was amalgamated with Ryde High School and North Ryde High.
Okay.
And so I went there for the last couple of years of my school life and then left. Rob and I obviously been together since we were 17 years old.
Wow.
We got married at the age of 22. It actually took us 6 years to have our first child.
Wow.
So having children for us was not easy. So when we did have our first child, it was very, very precious moment.
Yeah.
I then fell pregnant with Christopher 9 months after Adriano was born. And so, you know, they were miracles. My boys were just miracles. I can tell you now, Christopher, when I was pregnant with him the last 5 weeks, were a bit of uncertainty because I was spending a lot of time in hospital thinking I couldn't feel the baby move. I don't know what was wrong. All this thing, maybe it was just anxiety. I don't know what it was, but the day Christopher was born was he was actually born through emergency Caesar because I had one of those concerning days where I hadn't felt him all day. And I said to Rob, I really need to go to the hospital. I can't feel this baby move. And when I got there was no heartbeat. So
Wow.
Christopher came into this world in a very traumatic way, extremely traumatic. We thought we'd lost him. We thought he was a stillborn. So we had the emergency Caesar, and when he was born, apparently he came out screaming. So
Wow.
I always believe Christopher came into this world for a reason. I mean, he was born 27th of March, and I brought him home on the 1st of April, a few days later, and he actually died on the 1st of April. So he's my angel. He was born an angel. And that's what he was like. He was amazing. He was, as one of my nephews always said, he was one of the best of us. He was the best of us. And, 2 years later, I had Michael. Then I had 3 boys. After I had Michael, I was like, I'm not having any more kids.
I'm done.
This is it. 3 boys. Not even going to try for a girl.
Mayhem. Absolute mayhem.
And so we stopped there, and, I'll never forget, obviously, one of us had to kind of either I get my ovaries removed or Rob had to get a snip because I thought I'm not risking any more children. Yeah. And I'll never forget sitting in front of the psychologist because obviously we were very young. We were still very young at the time. And they looked at us and they said, what if you lose a child? And I said to them, we can't replace a child with another child. Every child is unique. Every child is within their own rights, their own person. Just because you lose a child doesn't mean you can actually replace a child with another child.
So this comment was made
when Michael was born.
So what, you were about 30, 32?
Yeah.
So was Christopher the eldest?
He was my middle son.
Middle child.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Michael was born after Christopher, and pretty much he was still a baby, I remember, and we decided that's it.
And they said to you, what if you lose a
You're
child?
too young, you shouldn't be doing this. And I said to them, I have had 3 children and that's all I want. They'll always be my 3 children, and they said, but, there's always things that happen in life, and if you do lose a child, what if you're still young enough to have another one? And I said, I cannot replace a child with another child. We are having this vasectomy done today.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll never forget that conversation. And, obviously...
Was that something that came to you, Patricia, pretty much right away after you lost Christopher?
Yeah, it crossed my mind, but I still would never replace Christopher with another child. Never. Yeah, I yearn to be a grandma now. I can't wait to be a grandmother for my 2 boys to, you know, bring me a baby home. And that's you know, because every mum and, you know, being a grandmother is a different type of feeling, and I'm looking forward to that. That's what I'm looking forward to, but never would I replace my son with another child.
Patricia, I just got a question. You know, I'd like to think I'm a young father. Probably not young, but I'm young. But I'd like to compare to what else is out there now. First time parents, I want to ask you this question. It's a very normal thing to be worried about your child, obviously, when they're growing up, when they're babies, whether they're choking on a piece of food, whether one day they, God forbid, they're drowned in a pool or something. It's very common. I know for me it is, to get these intrusive thoughts.
Yes.
Did you not out of evil? It's just worry because you love your kid. Now, to all the mothers and fathers out there, the new ones, did you ever grow up when your kids were young? Did you obviously stress about that a lot?
You fear it all the time.
All the time?
It's normal to fear that something will happen to your children, that they get sick. You know, I find it hard to even just go to a children's hospital and see all these kids that are terminal, and I think, oh my Lord. You know, parents that are going through trauma of seeing their child in a hospital bed, not knowing whether they're going to make it or not, is the same as losing a child. It's the same trauma.
They're living it too. They actually it's hard to watch, man.
As I said before, there is nothing that compares to a loss of a child. Nothing. And the thought of losing your child is just as traumatic. And, you know, to sit there wondering every single day, is my child going to live through this, is such a traumatic thing. And I feel for those parents because I know just the thought how bad it is. And to actually go through the fact that they've lost a child is horrible.
I remember, Josie and I, we struggled for 6 years before we got Ave Maria. And we used to have a constant argument. So when we brought Ave Maria home, I used to always wake her up out of her sleep.
Who are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to nudge her.
Yeah, to see if she's still alive.
Yeah.
And still
I
breathing.
put my finger under the nose to see if they're still breathing.
See, I wasn't that smart, right? Yeah. I had to actually, I would shake her.
You know what I did?
What's that?
I bought one of those mats that you put underneath the mattress that actually senses the baby if they're breathing or not, and if they stop breathing, the alarm goes off.
Oh well, I didn't know they existed.
That's even smarter.
Saves you going in.
That is how paranoid I was with my first child, because I thought, oh my God, it's taken me 6 years to have you. I don't want to lose you to SIDS, and you know, you hear all these stories of that, you know, children die in the cot, and it's like, I didn't want to leave their side. I'd have them everywhere, watching his breathing every time he slept. It was
absolutely
just it's horrific. It's horrific.
So it's common.
The trauma. It's very common.
Yeah.
It's very normal.
Ben, I thought I was the only one that
No, Bill, it's
it's
very
very
common,
normal.
Huh? These are the things people don't really speak about.
I've had I've had sleepless nights.
Just paranoid.
Not only paranoid, but I would reenact these silly scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my daughter being.
Don't say it, bro.
Yeah, right.
Don't say it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, as a parent, even now after losing a child, my kids are adults. They're not children anymore.
Yeah.
How old are your kids now?
Michael's 22 and Adriano's 25.
Okay. Young men.
They're young men,
young
men. I smother them. I suffocate them because I do feel sorry for them, because I know they're adults. They want to do their own thing, but it's a constant worry. It's like, you know, don't do this because something might happen, and they look at me and go, "But I'm just living life.
Is this now?
This is now."
Were you always like this, Patricia?
Yeah, not as much as I am now, like that. You know, you worry about your kids. You worry about losing them in the shopping centre. I mean, just losing a child in a shopping centre, oh my God.
Yeah, that's enough for
The
me.
anxiety that you get
enough.
from that is just
So,
beyond, okay?
My youngest hid in the aisle of the supermarket the other day. Just walked off by himself. It happens that quick.
It does.
And can I tell you,
That feeling, yeah.
the thousands of thoughts that went in my head in that millisecond.
Yes.
And I'm like, bro, it's only been a second, and look how much I'm freaking out.
Yeah,
Your whole body goes cold.
Yeah.
You die within
Right.
that. You die.
die,
You
yeah.
implode.
That's
you,
it, that's
you
the
just,
word.
You die
That's the word.
inside because you've just lost your child. You've
So
looked away for 1 second and you've lost your child.
Thursday night, I have a dream. Ave gets abducted. If I tell you how real this dream felt, right? Like I woke up sweating bullets.
Yeah.
And then she had pupil free day on the Friday. So she was with me.
Yep.
So I brought her here to the showroom, did a bit of work, whatever. Then I promised her I'll take you to the shops and get her a treat.
This is real life, not the dream, yeah?
No, real
Yeah,
life. So
okay,
this is
yeah.
the next day.
Yeah, the next day,
The day
okay.
after I had the dream.
Yep.
And I'm at Liverpool, Westfields. And I had my youngest daughter as well with us. And if I tell you, so I'd forgotten about the dream. But I was being so, you can say, I was being rude to them, like very violent in the sense of how I was talking, very rough.
Yeah.
Come here, make sure you don't move, don't. After about 10 minutes, my daughter goes, Dad, why are you being rude for? You keep screaming at us. And then I just stopped and I went, fuck, I am. I go, sorry, Dada. And then it hit me. I go, actually, you know what?
It's your trauma.
I go, this is why, Dad. And I told her the dream I had.
You subconsciously
Subconsciously, right?
saying it.
I completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
Until she pulled me up about how I was behaving, that's when it come to me and I'm like, Dada, last night, you don't want to know what I went through. Someone grabbed you and I lost you.
You told her that.
I told her. I go, please, just, I'll stop screaming. Do not let go of my hand.
Stay close.
So then 10 minutes later, she goes, Dada, can we leave? Like she'd had enough of the shops. She just wanted to get out of there. Anyway, Patricia,
The trauma is normal. That type of trauma is quite normal for any new parent. We live for our children. As a
Amen.
parent, you live for your children.
Yep.
That is it, and that's why you die when inside when something happens.
and this is what I need, like any teenager out there, especially the ones that think they know it all, which is pretty much all of them. I hope, and any parent watching this, get your son or your daughter to watch this part of the podcast and let them hear this. Because some kids get overwhelmed. They think, oh, I've got a strict mum and dad, or I've had kids, you know, I hope they die because they're not allowed to do a certain A, B, or C. Kids, they need to understand what a parent actually goes through.
Joey, I'll stop you there. A child will never know, a teenager will never know, and a young adult will never know what it is like for a parent until they have their own children.
Absolutely.
My mum used to say the same thing to me.
And, you know, my kids only said it the other day. He, you know, my son did something and I said, why? Why do you have to put me through this trauma? I've got enough trauma. I don't need any more. And he goes, I don't know why you have to worry so much. Why do you have to worry about what I do? I was just around the corner. I'm only late for an hour. I said, you need to be late for 2 minutes.
And that's enough for you.
That is enough for me to put me into an anxiety spin that I feel like I'm going to die. And he goes, I just don't understand why you have to be like that. And I said, well, you will never understand until you have your own child. And when that happens, then you come back to me and you can say sorry to me. Because I know you don't understand the feeling it is to have a child. I don't care if you're 2 years old, 20, 22, 42, whatever it is, 50, you're still my child.
Absolutely.
And I will worry you until the day I die. You are still my child.
Can I just touch on that?
Yeah.
Obviously, my mum used to say the same thing to me, but sometimes I ask obviously God rest my dad's soul when he was here as well. I'd say, Dad, how did you let me how'd you let me ride my bike in the street? No helmet, nothing. I go to my mum, how did you let me drive a car? Obviously licensed, even though I've got my P's. Didn't you still this is me now as a dad talking to my parents. Mate, I get right now, I freak out when my kids go to the backyard. Just in the backyard in my own house, and I'm not there.
Mm-hmm.
They're just doing nothing. They're just playing.
Yeah.
But let's magnify the playing as they get older. Kids, when they're in their teens, 16, 17, they're playing with cars. They're playing. They're seeing, obviously, there's a lot of peer pressure involved in regards to drugs. They start seeing a side of the world, right? And now, for me now, me playing it as a kid in the backyard, that was I didn't even never used to ask. It was just a normal thing. But as you get older, may have been a parent now, I'm freaking out for my kids entering the real world, seeing what's out there. Put them in a car, something as simple as them jumping in their mate's car because because I lived it, bro. I lived it when I was 16. I lost one of my best mates in a car accident.
Yes.
I had a little cousin.
You know what I mean?
19 years old, died in a car accident.
God rest their soul. Mate, it's
yeah.
The kids.
It's funny you mentioned this, Bill. So my niece, my brother's daughter, she's 17, and she's got her own vehicle now. She's on her red Ps. I actually had this conversation with her 2 days ago on a Saturday afternoon. I told her, I said, listen, uncle, I don't care who's in the car. You're in the driver's seat. You got control.
Yep.
When it comes to peer pressure, when it comes to, Charlize, do this, do that, do not give in.
No.
Because operating a vehicle is a weapon.
Literally,
it's a weapon.
That's what my parents used to say to me. It's a weapon.
It is.
It's a weapon, bro.
And
well, my youngest has just come home with a motorbike, so just
tell them to watch this podcast, man.
He's added a new level of anxiety in my life. But what do you do? Yeah. You know, I can't. Rob and I are both riders. We ride motorbikes, so we can't. You know, I've got my license, so does Rob. We can't actually turn around and say, well, you can't ride your motorbike.
Because he's obviously got that passion from you guys.
Yep.
And you think, well, how do we stop this? Yeah. You can't. You just
sorry to say, Patricia, you can be the best rider.
Oh,
it's not about you.
No, it's not.
It's about the idiots around you.
100%.
They don't know how to drive around a motorbike.
No.
And that's the issue here.
Yep.
And anyway, that's a stress in itself. I don't want to.
It's a new anxiety in my life, which I don't really need. But it's something that obviously is going to be his mechanism and coping with life, because obviously, you know, he's looking for ways to be able to deal with life. Yeah, absolutely. Because he's a tradie himself, and as a parent, you just have to just keep getting into their ear in the hope that when they're on that motorbike, because I said to him, I said, you know, a car is one big weapon, but it has a metal right around you to protect you somehow.
Yeah, you have that protection.
And when you get into a car and you have emotions, you ride, you drive your car with your emotions.
Wow.
And this is what you do as a child.
Yeah.
As an adult, we're controlling that, but up until you're about 30, 35 years old, you drive your car like your emotion. So if you're getting on a motorbike and you're angry, you're going to ride your motorbike with anger. And it's not going anywhere. It's not. And he goes, no, I'm not going to do that. And I said, yes, you are. Because that's just fact of life. That's the way it is. We ride and drive the way we feel. And, you know, we take out our emotions on our vehicles. And a motorbike, this is what I kept saying to him, you can't have a motorbike until you're 35, 40. When you've had all your frustrations out.
And it's not only that, it also, you ride with experience.
Yeah.
But it's so important to have that experience as a driver.
Yeah.
That way, when you're riding, and I'm not a rider, Bill. I'm not. Don't think like I sit here and I'm part of some Harley Davidson club.
I grew up on them, on dirt bikes though, not road bikes.
But
But a rider drives differently to a driver that has never ridden a bike.
That's exactly right.
We have that peripheral vision, and we're more aware of motorbikes around us.
And not
everyone
got that.
does.
Not everyone's got that, and that's what's scary. I remember my brother. He had 2 friends die on a motorbike accident, and 3 months later he goes out and buys one.
That's his frustration.
Yeah, 3 months later.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, they were living in Greystanes, married, they just had their first kid. Anyway, I rock up, he goes, "Oh, come to the back, I've got something to show you." I go to the back, I see it, I go, You're joking now, yeah? He goes, "No, bro, I'm just going to take it just around the area." I go, "See you later." Jumped in my car. I drove off.
Yeah.
For 1 month, I didn't talk to my brother. He would ring me, I wouldn't answer him. He would message me, "Oh, why are you being a bitch for?" Answer. Wouldn't answer him. I'd be at my parents'. Obviously, I was still living there. I'd find out he's coming over. I'd leave the house. My mum would ring me. "Oh, your brother wants to talk to you. Why'd you leave?" I go, "I am done with him."
Yeah.
Get rid of the bike. You get your brother back. He had it for a month, Patricia, until he sold it for me to then
Be able
go
to
back
talk
and talk
to
to
him.
him. I was not going to accept it.
Probably the best thing you did.
Wasn't going to accept it. It's a joke. And especially to go through what he went through
Yes.
and then to go and do that, in my eyes, was ridiculous.
Your poor mum.
My mum,
Your poor mum.
again, she didn't know about it,
Oh.
right? Because he's living at home, in his own home. He hid it from him because there's no chance my parents would have accepted that.
Yeah, same. Mine's the same. Like I said, I grew up on dirt bikes, all that stuff, all my life for as long as I can remember. But if I was to tell my parents I'm buying a Harley and I'm riding on the road, and
Yeah, that's a different story.
it's a game changer. Patricia, I got a question to ask you. How was the boys' upbringing? Like, how was it when they were younger? They played what sports were they into? You know,
Soccer.
Tell us about their upbringing and.
Yeah, they love their soccer. Adriano, my oldest, is a dancer. He's been dancing since he was 4.
Yep.
He's mainly into hip hop, and he's 25 and he's still dancing. So
Which area did you guys grow up in? I know you're from the right area, I think. I'm assuming.
Yeah, but we moved to Concord,
Okay,
Haberfield.
beautiful. Yep.
So the inner west, and
That's very Italian of you.
it
Yeah, I was going to
is.
say just a bit.
Followed my husband's roots, so
Beautiful area. Love
it
it.
is. And then we moved to Castle Hill about 8 years ago. So we're now in the hills area.
Not far
But,
from me. Yeah, it's pretty. I love it there too.
But the kids, they went to, St. Mary's at Concord, then to St. Pat's. Normal
Normal
life.
West upbringing.
Yeah,
Soccer on the weekends.
very
yeah.
happy. Soccer for school, soccer for weekends, training weeknights. That was our life with the kids. Rob was a baker up until probably 8 years ago. So he spent a lot of time, obviously, at the bakery. His hours were very long. He'd start at 6 p.m. and finish at 8 a.m.
Wow.
So for the first few years of my life, it was like being a single mum, obviously bringing...
Respectfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Respectfully.
Yeah.
Obviously, the man's got to do what a man's going to do.
That's right. So he worked very long hours and have every second weekend off, but most of the time was sleeping, catching up on sleep. And, the only time we really spent together was when he would take 2 weeks off work and we'd go on holidays.
Yeah.
And, it was difficult. He'd get up when the kids come home from school and spend the time with the kids. On Saturdays that he would be free, he'd take the kids to soccer, and that was our life. But pretty normal. But it was getting to the point where you start seeing your kids grow up and be more independent, and your life starts changing. So as a parent of young children, it's hard yakka, and then they get
Especially
to
boys.
you get to a certain point where you can now start enjoying life with your husband again and wife, having your time because they're old enough to leave at home. So we're just enjoying life.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget a few months before Christopher died, I said to my husband, I'm scared that the kids are going to leave soon because they were getting into their 17-year-old and they're not going to want to do anything with mum and dad. And when your kids start getting older, you start feeling that they want to not be around.
Yeah.
And you start worrying and you think, oh God, I just want them near me as much as I can. So we started to we got back into water skiing and getting our kids into the water. We didn't have a boat for a very long time. Obviously, Rob and I grew up water skiing before when we got married.
Got into that to keep the family unit together. And
Yeah,
all that sort of stuff, just to keep everyone.
Yeah, just you find things that you can do as a family. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So is that the
At the Hawkesbury, yeah.
the property you got there?
Yeah.
So did you buy that for that reason, Patricia?
No, we were camping there. We used to go there weekends and camp, and the kids loved it, absolutely loved it. And we'd go very often.
Yeah.
We were borrowing someone's boat to be able to water ski.
Okay.
And we'd camp together and we started teaching the kids how to water ski. And then Christopher had been working a year and a half already, and he pretty much said, Mum, I want to buy a boat, and he did. Bought himself a boat, which then later on, 2 years later, after he died, it was actually stolen.
Got what? Stolen?
It's stolen, yeah. So
wow.
But that was my instinct. It was like, oh my God, we've got to do things with the kids. Find something that they enjoy. And this is why we started going water skiing and camping, and they were loving it. And in December, in 2018, I said to Rob, let's go on a nice holiday to Hawaii with the kids. And just so that they're with us, just the five of us, let's have the best time. You know what I mean? Because then they're not going to want to come on holidays with us anymore. Yeah. And 2 weeks before we left, Adriano, as a dancer, obviously got a gig in China and he had to cancel. So he didn't come. And I remember saying, but this is going to be our last family holiday together before you guys decide to do your own things like this. And it ended up being the last holiday ever as a family unit. And Adriano missed out.
Patricia, I just want to stop you there. I want to go back. I actually want to go back. There's two things I want to talk to you about. We have obviously young parents that listen to this show. We have many ages, backgrounds. In regards to parenthood, what you were saying, you started realizing that the kids were getting older. You were losing more time. They want to be a bit more independent. Me, I'm getting emotional saying this, bro. Apart from losing a child, like I don't know if I can hack that. Like my little boy, my oldest son or something would say to me, like, would not need my help anymore, or not put his arms out to hug me because he's getting old. Like I don't know if I know it's going to be a part of life, but I know it's coming one day, and it's killing me now knowing that. No.
Yeah.
What do you like? I know the answer, but what advice do you give to these parents that are dealing? This is the first part of the question. That the kids are they're stressed. They're stressed at home. The kids are nagging. The wife's nagging. Whoever. It's just mayhem. But you got these little kids that just want your attention, and you're not half-assed for it. You're not bothered for it. What's your advice to them?
Cherish it. Cherish every moment that you have with children, from babies to the time when they hit high school, because once they hit high school, things change. And, when a child comes running to you with their open arms and want a hug, you hear about all these stories about us being so busy with our phones and then they go to school and they talk about their families. And I remember reading the other day, someone put a post up by saying that she was a teacher marking some of the responses some of these kids had, and the question was, what do you wish you were the most within your family? And one child said, I wish I was a phone, because the parents are always on their phones and they're always busy watching TV And he goes, if as soon as the phone ring, it only needs to ring once and my parents will pick it up straight away. When I say something, I have to shout and scream and nag before they even turn around and then tell me to be quiet because they're busy on the phone. Cherish these moments. Unfortunately, the world we live in today is full of technology and we lose ourselves in technology. We need to give our children that time. Kids are born with iPads in their hands. Seriously. Just shut up, look at your iPad. You will not see a child these days that is in a pram that hasn't got a phone or an iPad in their home, in the pram. And it breaks my heart because, we were still in that generation where our kids didn't have iPads and phones. And, we used to go to the park and we used to play with our kids and we used to take them to soccer. That was our outlet. For us, the barbecues in the morning before soccer, we used to look forward to that, get a coffee and stand in the freezing cold.
Those little moments, eh?
It's those moments,
little moments, man.
That we take for granted. The parents of today don't realise what they're actually missing out on because of technology.
I agree.
Just cherish every moment.
My house at home it's probably been renovated for about coming on to 6 years now. Still fairly new.
Yeah.
We've got a wall in the house where my kids have just scribbled on it or drawn on it with a pencil or something. Obviously, natural reaction by my wife is, we need to get the house painted. I can't get this thing off.
No.
I actually stopped and said to her, listen, man, there's going to be a day, whether we like it or not. I've seen this all over socials, but I was thinking it before I even seen it. Leave the wall with the drawing on it.
Yeah.
Leave the if they've smudged something in their room on the wall, just leave it as a memory, man. Okay, because before we know it, it's just a memory. That's exactly what it is.
It is.
And that's them still being here as well.
There was a video on Instagram, a reel that I saw. And it goes something to the effect of, if you're a mother or a father and you're at home and your kids are running amok and you're about to have a mental breakdown, you're about to snap and do what we do when we feel that they're out of control. Before you say anything, fast forward and pretend that you're 80 years old in your home, sitting there alone and wishing that your kids would walk through that door.
Yeah.
Because I promise you, and I actually done it.
That helps me too, bro.
And I reenacted that moment in
we have to.
In that instance, and let me tell you, man, it works. It works.
It does.
And
it's helped me.
We quickly forget, and Patricia hit the nail on the head. We're so caught up with our life, with technology. Mum and dad's on the phone.
Yeah.
And the kids are doing their own thing. Like, what quality are we really sharing with them?
I've got myself in the habit now when I get home. So I'll get home before my wife and kids do. She'll do the school pickup Sundays, or if I'm not doing it because I finish early. I'll get my down. I've programmed myself to have my downtime when I'm by myself on my phone doing whatever. As soon as those kids enter the door, my phone's in my room on charge, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Because I was a culprit, bro. I used to do that.
Yeah.
I used to do that a lot. Like, my kids will be there, and all they want is your attention. And
especially when they're little.
Yeah.
When they're little,
Like
they need it.
My eldest is 6, my middle's nearly 5, and my youngest is 1.5 years. Like, the babies. And man, I'm just like you said, Joey, bro. Like, we're never gonna get these moments again, which is why I realize now with our parents to our children as grandparents, we always think they love them more, but no, bro. They've learned from their mistakes with us.
Yeah.
They're reliving that moment.
They're reliving the moment through our kids.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started having it, started seeing it, and obviously got older and wiser as to. And
No.
I want that double. I want that with my kids and, God willing, my grandkids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if that we know these things, we're actually voicing these things out. We know them. We still do it.
Yeah.
It's remembering to actually remind ourselves not to. and to actually give the time to our children to grow up, because you know what, this world that we live in is very confusing. It's extremely
Absolutely.
confusing, and I don't
That's the
know.
nice way
I
to put
don't
it.
know what else to say it. But these poor children, I dread my grandchildren. I really do for what they're coming into.
Yeah.
Because it's not the way it used to be.
Scary.
Okay. 1st of April 2019.
Yep.
How has that changed your life? Can you talk to us about that day?
From the start.
That day was a day that I never thought would ever come. Never in my wildest dream did I ever think I'd lose my son or a child in the matter that he died. It was such a happy moment. Christopher had just turned 18.
So was it the Saturday before?
No, we had the party. So he turned 18 on the Wednesday before.
27th of
and
March?
27th
I'm
of
the
March.
26th.
Yeah.
Wow.
So on the 27th of March, Christopher and I went to work together as per usual.
So
He jumped into the van.
If you can let people know.
Yeah, I used to
Patricia,
own
so you had
a coffee van. So I used to spend a lot of time on construction sites. And when Christopher didn't want to go to school anymore, he actually said to me, I want to start working in construction. Can you see if you can get me a job? And I asked Future Form at the time, and I said, because I knew the boys there at Macquarie Park, and I said, can you give my son a trial during the school holidays? And that's when they said, yeah, bring him along. And so
There was
I
a
got
form
his
worker.
form worker. And so Christopher finished year 10, and he basically the next day I got him in his PPE. We got his white card done, and he came to work with me and started pretty much his trial with Future Form. And 2018 pretty much started work with them as an apprentice, and worked every single day. We'd go together to work, and I got to spend the last year and a half of his life every single day with him, which I'm forever grateful for.
Patricia, can I just stop you for a second? Now, you've said numerous things tonight, all the way back to when he was born, where he wasn't supposed to have lived through that.
Yeah.
Then when you went to go get your vasectomy or rip out whatever it is, you've had a psychologist or a psychiatrist say to you, what if one of your kids die?
Yeah.
Then you've gone and had these thoughts and talks with Rob about we're losing our sons, like they're not going to want to hang out with us. Then you book this holiday and you say, this could be our last holiday. And
As a family unit.
As a family, yeah.
Never thinking that my son would actually die.
Then Michael? Adriano pulls out.
Yeah.
That upsets you because you're like, this is our last chance to have a family holiday.
Yeah.
And all this has happened just before you lose Christopher.
Yeah.
Is that a coincidence, these things that have happened, do you feel? Or do you feel it's a greater being that has led you?
Leading up to Christopher's death, the fact that Adriano wasn't with us in Hawaii was very upsetting, because I really, really wanted him to be there, and unfortunately he couldn't. And we can't have that back. We can't have that family holiday ever again as a whole 5 of us. It's now 4 of us. And it's hard because I can't, I wish she had experienced those last, the last holiday with us.
Okay, so April 1st, why weren't you at work?
So, well, I had, as I was saying, Christopher, on that Wednesday when he turned 18, I actually organised a cake in the coffee van. So I did everyone's coffee that Wednesday morning, and everyone went off, and Christopher went off, and I grabbed the cake and I put it into the lunchroom, and I said to the boss, I said, go get Christopher, it's his 18th today. And so when he came down, obviously he was absolutely mortified when he saw his mother in the lunchroom. And
on the job site?
Oh my God, on the job site. He goes, Mum, I'll never live this down. How could you do this? And I said, yeah, but it's your 18th. I said, we have to celebrate. That same day, Christopher took out a loan to buy a car. That was a Hilux that was owned by one of the steel workers on site. He was so excited. He got that loan approved on his birthday. He picked up the car on Friday and was so excited to finally get his car. He had just bought himself a boat, and now he's got a car to tow his boat. Wow. And
you would have been pumped.
he was so
so
pumped at 18.
Yeah, it's a big achievement. What were you doing at 18, Joey?
I know. You know
Not
what I
that.
mean?
Not that, definitely not that, bro.
I didn't
Definitely.
have a car.
Didn't have a dollar to my
I
name
didn't have a boat.
at all.
I didn't have a job.
That too.
But that's the type of kid Christopher was.
Wow.
He was such a good kid, you know, saved his money and he knew what he wanted in life. He really did. He had a direction in life. And, you know, the Saturday we celebrated his birthday with family and friends. But the whole night was spent in the car pretty much up and down the street with his mates and cousins, working out where he's going to take this car for driving and what he's actually going to do to it.
And he'd drawn up a list of the accessories.
Well, after the day, after his birthday on the Sunday morning, that's when he woke up and he came up to me and goes, Mum, I'm so, so happy. He goes, now I've got my car to tow my boat, but there's one more thing I'd like to do. And I thought, oh, God, what's that? He goes, Mum, I want my car to be fully sick. And I just went, oh, my, yeah. And I looked at him, I said, what? And he goes, Mum.
That's what happens when you work with Lebos.
Oh, I was going to say,
he goes,
bro,
mate, he goes, look, Mum, these are the things I want to do. And so he sat me down and he started showing me all these things. He even Googled his number plate.
What was his number plate?
Cass 01 on a Western Tigers.
So he was a West Tigers supporter.
He was a West Tigers supporter.
Oh, wow.
And he wanted a West Tigers number plate with the word Cass 01. And I said, okay. And I said, no problem. And I said, listen, tomorrow I'm taking the day off because obviously I had a mess from the birthday party. And so I said, I'll stay home. You can drive yourself to work now. You don't need me to drive you in the van. So he woke up Monday morning, the 1st of April, 2019, went to work, and at 12:20 p.m, a 9-story scaffold that was 2 bays wide collapsed and suffocated him to death. Everything he had spied for, gone. Everything Christopher wanted in life, gone. And, you know, Christopher did not even get a chance to have his first beer in a pub with his mates. Didn't even get to see the inside of a nightclub as an 18-year-old. Not that he even done it before he was 18. He was a sensible kid. Was so excited that he had just turned 18, but never got a chance to actually experience being 18. And it breaks my heart because he was such a good kid. He loved life. He loved outdoors. He loved the camaraderie at work. He loved being around, and his life was taken all because of a 5-minute complacent decision that took him for life. For what? For what? And that for me is something I will never accept in my life, ever. Ever.
Can we talk about the phone call?
Sure.
And
I mean, I was at home, I was cleaning, and I just sat down to just type an email to someone. And the phone call came from a very good friend of ours who was also on the site. And he called and he said, Patricia, you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. I'm at home. I'm cleaning up. And he goes, oh, where's Christopher? I said, he's at work. And he goes, oh, Trish, haven't you heard? And I said, no. I said, what's wrong? And he goes, oh, Trish, there's been an incident. I think you better go to the site. So I quickly dropped the phone. I got in my car and
what are you thinking at this point?
Oh, at that very point, I thought, well, if something had happened, I'm sure his bosses would have called me.
Yeah, you're not going to get a phone call of a family friend.
That's right. You know what I mean? So it was just an incident. That incident, obviously, I worked there. My son's there. So my first instinct is I better go and go check it out. So I'm on the M2. I'm driving my Jeep at the time. I think I was hitting speeds that I've never seen before, trying to get there as soon as I could, and then still trying to convince myself that everything is fine because obviously, you know, I didn't get that phone call from the bosses.
You don't have that concrete.
I don't have, you know,
evidence.
phone call. And so as I'm sitting there, I said, I'm just going to ring Christopher's phone. And this is when it just kept ringing out. And that's when the anxiety started hitting because he kept ringing out and he would normally answer my phone call. So then I called one of his managers and Adam picked up the phone. I said, Adam, what's going on? I said, I heard there's been an incident. And he goes, oh, yeah, Trish, there's been some collapse. I'm on my way there now. I don't have the details, but as soon as I get there, I'll call you. And I said, but Adam, how bad is it? What is it? And he goes, Trish, I don't know. But one thing I do know is Christopher's involved. Probably at that time, I'm thinking, oh, my God, what do you mean? And he goes, Trish, I don't have the details. I'll call you as soon as I get them. And this is when the anxiety starts to boil. So then I called Jim, his other supervisor, and Jim picks up the phone and he's pretty much huffing and puffing because he's in the hole trying to get to Christopher. And when he picks up the phone, I said to him, Jim, is Christopher with you? Is he okay? And he goes, oh, Trish, I can't speak to her now. I have to call you back later. And I thought, oh, my God. I said, Jim, please, I need to know, is Christopher with you? Is he okay? Sorry, Trish, can't speak to you and I have to call you back later, and hung up. And I don't remember from that moment what actually happened and how I even got to the site, but I remember just going black. I did manage to get there.
So you're driving at the moment when you're on the phone. Look, this is.
I'm not. I don't remember after that him saying and hanging up. I just remember going black. I don't even know how I drove this car to the site, but I did. And I remember stopping the car because I was stopped by the police. There was a police blockade at the gate. And I said, I looked up and all I saw was a row of police cars, ambulances, fire engines, rescue squad, the riot squad, and then a helicopter taking off. It was absolute mayhem. As I looked up, I thought, oh my God, how bad is it? Like, how bad is it? As I got out of the car, I collapsed to the ground because I at this stage, my anxiety is so bad I can't feel my legs and I can't breathe. Oh. So I picked myself up and I hear a car come up beside me, and I stepped in front of the car and I said, stop. I said, please take me up to the top. I said, my son's involved in an incident. So I get into this stranger's car and he drives me up the driveway of the site, and we stop at the evacuation area where now 250 workers are standing there in total silence. I get out of the car, I slam the door, and some of them turn and look at me and just burst out into tears. And I look at them, I go, trying to get their attention, trying to get eye contact with them to say, where's Christopher? Can someone please take me to Christopher? I need to get to him now. And they're all like shaking their heads. No one's talking. No one's saying anything. They're all in shock. So I walk through the crowd and I get to the road and I start pacing up and down the street. And that's when I get a tap on the shoulders and they say, Mrs. Cassaniti, can you please follow us? They take me up to the first aid room and I go to sit down, and just as I sit down, a police officer walks in. He kneels in front of me, puts his hand on my knee and looks up, and he said, I'm so sorry to inform you, Mrs. Cassaniti, but unfortunately there's been a scaffold collapse and your son got caught underneath it. We've done everything we can, but unfortunately he's passed away at the site. I stood up. I looked at the police officer and I said, I beg your pardon. I said, what do you mean my son has passed away? There is no way my son has passed away. He's just turned 18. You go back out there and you go get my son and you bring him back right now. because he's not dead. And he looked at me and just shook his head. He said, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Cassaniti, but unfortunately, he has passed away. That day changed my life so drastically that I don't know how every day I still get up and do what I have to do. But all I know is that I live day by day just to get through my life. That has changed, and it will never be the same. Never. Doesn't matter how you do it. It will never be the same.
I don't know what to really say to that, Patricia, but we were speaking outside before we came in here. My dad passed away 6 months ago. That's my dad. And that hurt. And it still fucking hurts. Still fucking hurts right till now. I haven't even grieved it properly.
Yep.
I'm sure you haven't really grieved either properly. But just, you're a warrior. Patricia, you're an absolute warrior, man. Like, I can't fathom going through that. Like, that's my worst fear. And I'm sure it's a lot of people's worst fear who are parents going through that. And it's always a worry growing up, watching these kids grow up, but you never think it's going to happen to you.
No.
You know, true? Am I saying, is that
right? We're not wired to lose our children.
No.
Losing parents, uncles, aunties, that's normal. It's part of life, and it hurts. But the thing is, we learn to adapt, and our brains allow us to adapt to it. But when you lose a child, your brain does not compute. It doesn't understand the pain. I can't even explain to you the pain of losing a child. There is no words.
I was about to say, I don't think there's any words.
There is no words to even try and make you understand what it is like to lose a child. We live for them.
We live for them.
We do.
My kids are my oxygen. Your kids are your oxygen.
100%.
You know what I mean? And without them, we've got no oxygen.
And that's why I said the only reason I am alive is because of Adriano and Michael. I live for them.
Mate, what else is there to live for? It's just Can I just ask, Patricia? So the police officer broke the news to you. Now, obviously, we all know how you reacted because I seen it online. I seen it on the news. I seen it. I seen when you and Rob were walking down. I seen the footage. Apart from shock and all that, like, based on my experiences with shock and grief and loss, especially when it's sudden, you almost go into like a delusional state.
You do.
Where you start laughing it off almost. Not laughing at as in like, ha, it all happened. You just trip out a bit.
Unfortunately, it's coming to terms with the fact that it's actually happened. It's not true. And this is the moment that you kind of think, yeah, right. Did that really happen? Yeah. And you think, yeah, nah, that's not it. Yeah. It's 6 years on, and I'm still, yeah, nah. I'm still, yeah, nah. It's not. And the thing is, every time I see my son's picture, my heart skips a beat because I don't want to believe that actually happened. And I reckon that's part of the reason why I have not processed and grieved my son properly, because I'm on that mission. I'm too angry. I'm extremely angry with the fact that he's gone in situation that was totally avoidable. And that's why I'm on this mission to make sure that it never happens again.
My next question to you, you've mentioned this a couple of times, saying it could have been avoided. I don't know what you want to touch on when it comes in regards to this next question. Can you shed some light as to actually what happened?
Sure.
And how it could have probably been avoided?
Well,
I don't know if you're allowed to talk about that.
Yeah.
Just whatever you can tell, whatever you can't.
So what happened was basically on the Friday, the scaffold was erected as far as I know, it was on the Friday. Saturday they were working on it, and on Monday there was orders to put the scaffold. The bricklayers had to work on there. So what happened there was, around 12:20. It was a very windy day. I'll set the scenario for you. So it's about 12:20, very windy day. Everyone's at lunch.
Yep.
And they're in their sheds. Thank God for that, because if it had happened 15 minutes earlier, there would have been about 35 workers that would have actually gotten caught underneath the scaffold.
If it actually happened earlier.
If it happened 15 minutes earlier.
Well.
So everyone had left to go to lunch, and they're in the sheds. And so when the scaffold came down, obviously it was very loud. So everyone ran out and realised that the scaffold had collapsed. And so they started running. A lot of people actually got onto the scaffold and started cutting it and throwing pieces everywhere before rescue team arrived. And just before it actually collapsed, 2 bricklayers had finished their lunch and stepped onto the 9th floor to actually start work. It was a 25 or 26-year-old and a 64-year-old bricklayer. They both stepped on it and felt the actual scaffold move away from the building. And the 26-year-old obviously grabbed the 64-year-old and said, "Oh my God, jump."
They felt it.
They felt
it sway.
move away from the building.
I'm not a scaffolder, but aren't these scaffolds meant to be secure against?
They're supposed to be tied to the building, and they're supposed to be quite sturdy. Yeah, you have a bit of shaking, but they actually felt it move away from the building. So he grabbed his mate and they jumped onto the balcony ledge.
So if they didn't jump on the balcony ledge,
they probably would have fallen with the scaffold. As the scaffold came down, it hit the crane that was in front of the scaffold, hit it so hard it listed to one side and actually bounced back with the operator inside the crane.
Oh my God.
He was stuck in his crane for about 6 hours, unable to answer his phone. No one could reach him. They didn't know whether he was alive or not.
Because the scaffolds actually hit the mast.
It hit, yeah. So, and it's collapsed right around it. So there's rubble right around the thing. So he didn't come down to about 6 hours later. Then, as it also came down, it got caught on the cable that was powering the crane, and it severed at the top. Thank God it severed at the top, because if it had brought down all the cables down with it, every person you see that ran towards the scaffold would have gotten electrocuted.
Oh. Like a domino effect.
Yeah.
It would have been like a... Oh.
So the trauma, there's a lot of the workers were screaming, trying to get there. Everyone's pretty irate at this stage because it was such an unsafe job site. There was a lot of problems leading up to Christopher's death, and a lot of people said, this shouldn't have happened, and there's a lot of fighting, a lot of, the riot squad was called in just to subdue the workers because the police got so, they got worried. They thought, oh my God, how are we going to control this?
The day obviously.
Yeah, within the hour, the riot squad arrived, and some of the workers actually got capsicum sprayed to subdue them because everyone was punching and screaming at each other.
Why didn't you do this? Why didn't this happen?
Yeah, why this? This is total bullshit. This site, there's always bound to something like this to happen because no one's careful. There's a lot of things that were happening, and so a lot of the workers were very, very angry. But unfortunately, it's one of those things. I mean, for me, the hardest thing was meeting Khalid, who was his supervisor. So when the scaffold came down, it was Khalid, his supervisor, and Christopher, and they were forming up a planter box next to the scaffold. They weren't even on the scaffold. They were just next to it.
Okay.
And so as it came down, Christopher fell face first flat and copped the full brunt of the scaffold. And Khalid fell sitting down with a brick wall behind him. His left arm ended up behind his back and nearly tore off his shoulder. He broke half of his body completely. He's had so many operations to put himself together again with rods, screws and plates just to be able to walk.
Patricia, was this 9-story? Was it a 9-story?
9-story scaffold.
And Khaled survived it?
Khaled survived it, but I can tell you now he survived injuries that are so horrific that he wishes he died with Christopher.
Oh, Lord.
You know, the problem, the reason why the scaffold came down was because every single tie was removed.
Off the scaffold?
Off the scaffold.
The tie that ties it to the building?
Correct.
Well, how does that happen?
Well, workers always manipulate scaffolds so it's easier to work. We don't know exactly who removed the ties.
Over time, it probably would have been.
No, it was actually done that day.
That day?
Yeah, because it was erected on the Friday. So
could have been a renderer, a painter.
Could have anyone. The bricklayers were working on it, but they're not the ones that actually removed the
I'm assuming
ties.
it penetrates through the building.
Into
the building.
wall.
So a renderer or a painter needs to obviously move it to get around it and work around it. Yeah.
Correct. So every single tie, except for one at the bottom, was removed. Then the worst part of it all is that so Janelle and the builder had contracted Synergy to erect this scaffold, but also allow 2-ton loading platforms so that they could load the bricks, sand and cement for the bricklayers. Unfortunately, those loading platforms were never there. And so the builder decided to load the bricks on every single level of that scaffold.
Are you telling me those platforms that are sitting at each level with the crane?
Yes.
That's purely for loads.
Loads.
And
Right.
they weren't there on that. They weren't there on
No.
that. job. They didn't have those.
There was no room for them, so they never put them up.
So where they've loaded the bricks,
Yeah.
they loaded them on the actual boards.
Of the scaffold.
Of the scaffold, yeah. So
Where that's purely just for transport.
human weight.
It's traffic.
Human
weight, yeah.
Human.
Not a pallet of sand and cement.
No.
And bricks.
No.
So the not only did
Top
the
heavy.
scaffold have no ties, it was overloaded by 18.9 tons.
Overloaded.
Overloaded 18.9 tons of material.
That's a semi-trailer.
And
That's a HR truck.
That's nearly.
That's a truck.
Is that 19,000
kilos.
Kilos. That's a truck. That's an MR truck. Not semi-trailer, sorry. It was an MR. A middle rigid truck on a scaffold. Top heavy. Imagine top heavy.
No, it was on every single level.
Every single level, even worse.
There was pallets of bricks.
Even worse, bro.
The thing is that the scaffolders themselves stood in front of it, looked up and said, "Oh my God, we need to stop the job." Turned to the leading hand and said, "We need to get everyone off the job now and unload those bricks off because it's too heavy."
The day off, on that day?
That day.
Wow.
And this is where the leading hand had that she'll be right moment and said, "It's okay. The forklift's going to come soon and take the bricks off and put them onto the balcony ledge." Well, that soon didn't come soon enough. And that scaffold came down, killed my son, totally destroyed Khaled's life and 250 workers that were working there that day, including the scaffolders. Every single person that was on that site will never be the same. Will never, ever be the same.
And that was a Janellan
A Janellan site. Yeah.
representative that made that call.
No, a Synergy.
Synergy
Actually
team
said,
leader
said
she'll be right.
she'll be right. And that's what's in the judgment of when the judge gave the judgment.
What fine did Synergy cop?
It took 3.5 years to get to this conclusion. And Synergy got fined $2 million with a Category 1 offence, and Janellan got issued a Category 2 offence with a $900,000 fine.
Okay. So $2.9 million is what Christopher's life's worth, apparently.
For government.
Yeah. And let's just make something clear. Yeah. This $2.9 million fine does not $1 goes to Christopher's family.
No,
Let's just make that clear.
no.
Look, I want to apologise, Patricia and Bill, for my walkout moment. Bit selfish of me, again, because it's your story. It's not mine. I need to be professional enough to be able to handle it. But I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm human. I can't help it. And why this is so personal to me is because my connection with yourself and Rob goes back to, I think it was pre-COVID. It was it 2 years after Christopher or one?
About a year or two after.
So it was about 2020, 2021.
I came to your job
to our office at Silverwater.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was an operations manager for a company called Transom Scaffolding. And this is what has led Patricia and Rob on their new journey. So can you just tell us, before I talk about when you came into our office, can you just talk to us about what you've created?
So obviously after there's two entities obviously that I've come from since Christopher died. The first one's obviously Let's Talk About Safety, where I now straight after Christopher died, about a month after, I now get on stage. I go on job sites and speak about Christopher's story, what happened and why it shouldn't have happened. The complacency part and encouraging workers to always speak up and dig their heels in and say no to unsafe work practices, which has been a fight of mine in trying to get through to every worker, as many workers as I can. But in saying that, Rob and I were so overwhelmed by so many people coming to us and helping us with groceries and providing us with food and all sorts of stuff, cooked food. Everyone was sort of like banding together, raising funds and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, Christopher's death was very public. And so, I mean, there was times that I'd say, how on earth do all these people know where I live? I had total strangers come to my home. We estimated about 600 people came to our house to deliver stuff. And so I said to Rob, we have to give back. And so I started the Touch by Christopher Foundation in July 2019, a few months after Christopher died. And the aim of that was to raise money to help other families who go through the same tragedy of losing a loved one at work. Because unfortunately, after Christopher died, we were more aware of the deaths that were happening at work. Not many people actually realise that every 2 days, someone gets up in Australia, goes to work and dies.
It's that common.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when I heard those statistics,
Wow,
I thought, how? Like, you know, everyone has to go to work to live. We all go to work to make our lives and the lives of our family better. And that is the only reason why we go to work. And no one should ever risk their life, no matter what, just to get a job done, because in the end it's just a job. That's all it is. It's just a job. And that job replaces you because you're just a number. But no family can ever replace you. And unfortunately, the people who normally die, and the majority of people that die at work, are the actual breadwinner and leave behind families and mortgages. And so Touch by Christopher is there to help with at least 3 months worth of groceries based on the number of family members that are left behind. It goes on $20 per person per day. And then we pay an additional $1,500 on top of that sum to cover any bills that they may have outstanding, like electricity bills, water bills, whatever it is. And then just recently we had a gala dinner to try and raise some more money so that I could add more. And we now added an additional $5,000 to cover mortgage repayments for at least the first 3 months, or any rental payments that they may have. I come across many families who just don't know what to do next, because there is no other help from government that allows these families to be able to recover from such a loss.
So let's just talk about that for a second. And I can almost guarantee you 95% of our viewers are either a tradie or they're a spouse of a tradie. Whether you're an electrician, whether you're a carpenter, a bricklayer, builder, form worker. Absolutely mind-blowing how you've turned your tragedy into thinking of other people. Because let's think of this for a second, Bill. When you lose someone, the last thing you're doing is going to work.
Yeah.
The last thing you're doing is generating an income. What Touched by Christopher Foundation does, it allows you the time to grieve.
Yeah.
It allows you the time to spend with your family in that most crucial time, right? And I've seen guys do it. Someone passes away. We spoke about it on our first episode about with you and your father, about how quickly did you return to work, right? You know, loved one dies, body goes to the coroner, it comes back. There's probably a 4 or 5 day, maybe a 1 week sort of spacing from when they pass away to funeral, right? And then you go to the funeral, you do the burial, you're back at work the next day.
Yeah, because you have no choice.
You got no choice.
There
I'm
is
laughing,
no
yeah?
choice.
Yeah.
Just the whole I know exactly what you're talking about. It's literally
It's what
we
you lived.
we don't have a choice
have a
because
choice.
there is no. I mean, when someone dies at work, it's slightly different, you know, because obviously the person who's died is actually the breadwinner, and the majority of them are males, and they're husbands and fathers, and they're leaving behind wives with mortgages. You know, we had one last year who unfortunately lost her partner, who had been together since they were 17 years old. They were just about to get married in February this year. He was a truck driver, was driving to Western Australia, and unfortunately was in an accident and his truck exploded.
Yeah.
Never came home.
Just driving, bro. Just driving the truck.
And he's left behind his wife and 4 or 5 children under the age of 10 and a mortgage.
Patricia, can I stop you there for a sec? Do you think it's a good idea for like couples to obviously, I don't want to use the word prepare,
Yeah, 100%.
but have the conversation?
100%.
Don't shy away from the conversation.
No.
Have that tough convo.
You've got to have your wills in place. Doesn't matter how young you are. My children now have a will, much to their disgust when I made them do it. But I said, it doesn't matter. When Christopher died, he was 4 days into his 18th birthday. So he was an adult, technically, for the government. He was an adult. So anything that he owned, or like with workers' compensation, there's a death benefit that comes out. And that death benefit gets given after investigations are made to make sure that it was an actual workplace incident. And that death benefit can take up to 8 months to 5 years, if not longer.
You just answered my question. I was going to say, so your investigation went on for a few years, yeah?
Yeah. So because Christopher did not have a will, everything that comes towards Christopher goes into an estate, and it gets held there just in case someone comes forward to say that they were dependent on Christopher. A girlfriend, an elderly person saying, well, Christopher used to cut my grass, he can no longer cut my grass, so I've got a take of that. Anyway, and you know, it is it's held in there, and because he didn't have a will in place, that's what happened. So I always say, you know, I've gone to government to change, to make sure that with our signing, you know, our MyGov, so that we're able to put our next of kin on in our apps, and that every single year we get reminded to make sure that we keep our next of kin current, because people get divorced, people have falling out. Sometimes this death benefit that has come has gone to the wrong people because they've forgotten to change the next of kin. You know, it's heartbreaking. It is absolutely heartbreaking. Some parents have actually lost totally everything because girlfriends have come forth and have claimed the whole death benefit.
Disgusting.
Yeah, it's
Disgusting.
When, you know, it's, I always say insure yourself. If you're a sole trader and you're a tradie and you've got a high-risk job, you need insurance. You need some income protection to protect your family if something does happen to you, because unfortunately it's tough on
You
the
just
side of
don't
the
know.
road. You
just
just
don't
don't.
know.
You don't know.
you think you know, but you don't
Yeah.
know, bro.
You
You just
don't.
know.
You don't want to think it, but unfortunately it does. It does happen, and when it does happen, it's too late. There's nothing your partner can do to help themselves, to be able to keep their homes. You know, if it goes under investigation, by the time that goes on, they'll probably lose the home because they can't pay for the mortgage. They can't. You know, they're trying to raise the kids on their own. You've got to put these things in place. When you're employed, you're under a workers' compensation scheme, and that's when you get the death benefit. But when you're self-employed and you're a sole trader, you need to, the minimum, need to get some TPD or some kind of life insurance or income protection to protect yourself, because you can only get your own workers' compensation when you become a company. So if you're a proprietary limited, then you are forced to enter into workers' compensation. But as a sole trader, which a lot of tradies are, they're sole traders, there is no protection. There is no death benefits because you're not under a workers' compensation scheme.
So it's always a good idea to cross your T's and dot your I's.
100%.
Yeah.
It's always good to get a lawyer in and put these things in place, put wills in place. I know it's a horrible topic and a horrible thing to have to think about, but unfortunately we all have to do it.
Joey, I'm just going to ask you, have you ever had that convo with Jose?
Um,
Ever spoke about it? Ever?
yeah, so
You know, like,
it's funny enough, that conversation happened the day you left our office when I met you.
Yeah.
So Patricia had come in and done her safety talk.
Yep.
Something she had started up, and it started off, I'd never met her, and to be honest, Patricia, I hadn't even heard of the accident before then.
oh, you didn't know about it?
Didn't know about it because that was the time I sort of switched off the news. I was, you know, on my journey.
A little bit of soul searching. Didn't want to.
Yeah.
No distractions.
And the news is something that I believe it's all negative. It's all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing positive that comes out of it, and it was just an energy I didn't want.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was completely off news. Patricia comes in, and she starts off with this slideshow. And fuck me dead, mate. She hadn't even said a word. And this tore me to pieces. And I'm looking at this, and in my head I'm going, surely that's not his mum. What's she doing here? How is she here?
Standing here.
Standing
presenting this.
Telling the story.
Yeah.
I was a wreck. I actually left work early that day. I walked into my boss's office, and I go, I can't be here. And I don't know if I ever told you or Rob, Patricia, but I actually went home that day and I told Josie, I want to quit. I was done. Because Patricia was up there talking, and she mentioned the overload of the scaffold. She mentioned the ties that have been removed. I was the ops manager at the time, so my job obviously was I was dealing with the builders. We need to erect scaffold, or we need to bring it down. So I'd organise the boys. I'll do my weekly site visits, my safety visits, to make sure that scaffold wasn't tampered with. And my biggest battle, day in and day out, was with the builder, right? You cannot remove this tie. Why is there gaps in the boards? So what builders would do, and other trades, they would dismantle my scaffold to suit whatever they were doing that day.
Yeah.
Or they would rebuild. They would actually remove ledges and boards and transoms, and they'll go build another section on by themselves. But it's like, hang on,
Non-compliant.
not tagged, right? It hasn't been signed off, and these unfortunately are the cowboys that are around in today in the building game. And cause that was my constant battle. And Bill, don't forget, I'm scared of heights, yeah. So I'll terrified going up these flights of stairs to get to the top.
We're talking big jobs, yeah. We're not.
We're talking tier 1 jobs.
We're not talking project homes.
No. You're talking like 150 units.
Okay.
And after that presentation, massive eye opener, because I was living it in the sense of, mate, I need to. And you know how many times I got threatened by the builder? I'm coming to your house.
Yeah.
Because I would shut down the scaffold. And I'll tag it, right? Not safe, not compliant, right? And everyone's got to come off. You're basically shutting down the job. And I'm thinking, why am I fighting for my life here on two fronts? One, I'm getting threatened by the builder. Two, walking on my own scaffold is a threat in itself because it's been tampered with. This thing can collapse on me. You leave. Patricia does the talk and leaves. I go straight to my desk, Bill, and I asked her for a card, and I built out this email. Hey, Patricia, you just left our office. My name's Joseph. I'm the ops manager from Transom. What can I do to help? And from there, I was just meant to come do a talk, Patricia, I think at one of your annual general meetings.
Yeah, for touch workers.
Yeah, and I was just meant to go give a talk as someone from the industry, and I don't know how I left that night, but I ended up getting voted on the committee, and I was there. I was on there for about a year and a half, and mate, that changed my life. And not long after I'd resigned, I was done, Bill, because what happened to Christopher was 110% avoidable. That was a life taken for no reason whatsoever. Actually, no, it was taken for a reason.
Yep.
Right? It was for monetary value of the builder. Why? Just to get shit done. Right? Or the scaffolder, the team leader, right, let's throw it up. Right, let's get to the next job.
I agree. It's.
And how many of us are like that, Bill? How many trades are out there? Their boss is on the phone saying, right, I want you to go to Silverwater.
Push.
I want you to do A, B, C, D. That job's no longer than 2 hours. Once you're done from Silverwater, I want you to go to Auburn. And from Auburn, you finish your day off in Revesby. So this guy that's working for what, $300 a day? Yeah? Is going, do you think he's thinking of safety?
No way.
Do you think he is thinking of, I need to get home to my family?
No.
He's thinking of what, $300? Or thinking of, I got to keep my job, or I got to keep my boss happy?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what he's thinking, Joe.
That's what it is.
That's exactly what he's thinking.
That's what it is, Bill. And
That's exactly
unfortunately, here is a byproduct of the construction game. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Patrizia Cassaniti, that is one son down. And for what?
Because of complacency.
Yeah, and
because we needed to get the job done.
And where are these companies, Patricia? All you got to do is you shut one down, and the other one's already up and running again, doing under another business, under another color code,
doing better and bigger and better.
Bigger and better than when the accident actually happened. right? And what Patricia and Rob are fighting for was being able to charge the builder with manslaughter, because every other state in the country except New South Wales.
No, it was only Queensland and Victoria that had industrial.
So there was only
manslaughter.
2 states, sorry. So 2 states had industrial manslaughter laws, where if there was negligence on the builder's behalf, where they could actually get jailed. And you got politicians fighting these people. Yeah. You got politicians putting a blockade in front of them to stop them from being able to hold these cowboys accountable. How dare you? How dare you? Let me tell you something. And I don't wish it upon my worst enemy. Let it be a son of a politician that was lost on a job site. And you fucking tell me what they will do. Yeah. You tell me what they will do to get shit done. And you're standing in front of these poor people.
Well, it took me 5 years.
5 years, sorry, Patricia, 5 years too long.
5 years of fighting to get, and this is when the Liberals were in power. Obviously, the Liberals are there to protect business and, the tier ones and the business of the economy. And it was only until Labor came into play that it all changed and industrial manslaughter came in. But every other state, it was only because the Labor was voted in that industrial manslaughter was able to come in, because they're about the people.
Well, let me tell you something, Patricia. That's not what Liberals are about. Sorry, I've been a Liberal my whole life. My father was a Liberal. My brother was a Liberal, right? That's not what we stand for.
No.
My father's a Liberal through and through, right? And I was having these chats with him while I was involved with your committee and telling him of the challenges that we were facing. And he was absolutely disgusted. Yeah. Because that's not, I don't give a fuck if you're Liberal, Labor, MAGA, Mega, Trump. I don't give a fuck if you're a dog, yeah? This is black and white. There's no in the middle.
I agree.
No.
This is black and white.
But that was my argument that I used to have in government, to say the safety of a human being and a worker who works in Australia should be protected no matter what what party the government is in. It doesn't matter if it's Labor, Liberal, Greens, whatever it is. That's a human being. It's a human life that has a family.
100%.
And family and friends, and they're totally disregarded. And I could not understand. What led me to this fight was sitting in the courtroom, and I had the prosecutor take me into a room to explain what was about to come, because obviously they knew I was going to be shocked. And he sat in front of me and he said, Mrs. Cassaniti, unfortunately, we do not have a law in place that actually holds anyone accountable for your son's death. And that sent me in such a spin that I looked at the prosecutor. I said, I beg your pardon. I said, what do you mean? And I said, my son died because of somebody's decision, because of somebody's choice that was made on that day, that he died. Now, if I get into my car and I kill someone, and it wasn't even my fault, but that person has died because they ran in front of my car or whatever it is, drunk, not whatever it is. If you kill someone in a car, it's instant manslaughter. You go to jail. Okay, you go to jail. There's no ifs, no buts. No ifs, no buts. Okay? If someone comes into my home because they want to steal something from us and I accidentally hit that person and they die in my household, I go to jail.
What do you mean?
For manslaughter.
If someone jumps your fence, a burglar, a thief, not someone, a thief.
Yeah.
If he jumps your fence with
your
the
property,
intention to steal from you, and he breaks his ankle while he's jumped the fence, he can sue you.
Yes.
Did you know that?
What a country, bro.
Did you know that?
Yeah, bro. That's why we need the Second Amendment like America, bro, straight up.
So it doesn't matter if someone has died.
Keep that away from me, bro.
Yeah,
if someone has died and you're responsible for their death, you get instant manslaughter. And you go to jail. Except
Get a builder's license.
Yeah.
Get a builder's
Or
license.
Can't
any
wrap my
work.
head around it.
And you're protected.
I can't wrap
or
my head
any
around it.
work,
Yeah.
any work. Anyone that has ever died at work up until last year, there was no culpability for anyone.
So thankfully, common sense has prevailed.
Yeah, which
There's-
doesn't exist in government.
Yeah, absolutely not. Right, but we've got that law now
Yeah.
where people are held accountable.
Yeah.
And a massive congratulations to you and Rob, Patricia, and your committee on the amazing work that you do.
Thank you.
Bill's gonna put a link in the bio of this video, and I implore everyone, for the sake of your family, for the sake of your partner, let's do as much as we can for the Touched by Christopher Foundation. Let's dig deep into our pockets because this affects all of us.
Yeah.
And how amazing would it be? And I pray to God that no one that's watching this, no one that's in here, especially you guys, what you have been through, Patricia. But I pray that no one goes through what Patricia and Rob went through, and you don't need this funding.
No.
But unfortunately, at the moment, Patricia has to basically send out messages on Facebook when she finds out about a death to say, hey guys, does anyone know this family? Can you please get me in touch with them? Just so she could be able to help them during this tough time, which I find mind-blowing. I find it mind-blowing how government, how there's no organisation that's gotten involved to somehow link Touched by Christopher to WorkSafe New South Wales to Fair Trading to something, right?
No.
I don't know
The only people who have come forward is iCare, and that's only just been recent where they'll now mention Touched by Christopher to family members when they discuss the policies and all that stuff, that if they need help that they can call us.
That's one avenue,
yeah,
Patricia, right? But there's much more that can be done.
100%.
Funding wise and all that.
Can I?
Absolutely.
My vision for Touched by Christopher is to be the next foundation similar to McGrath Foundation, where as soon as someone dies at work, they think of the Touched by Christopher Foundation for us to be able to help those families.
Absolutely.
That is the vision that I have for Touched by Christopher.
For now, Patricia's details are going to be in this video, and I implore everyone to share this video. I pray that you'll never need to revert to Patricia's details at all. I pray that you never have to talk to her. In
saying that, I mean, obviously the proactive stuff that I'm doing, if anyone
I'm
ever,
getting to that. So we pray that we don't talk to you about Touched by
Ever.
Christopher, right?
I don't want people
But
to die. Please
no.
do not die at work.
But the details will be there. And if you do know of someone, please, it's someone passes away at work, and unfortunately it is common. It's not a rare thing. Just last year it happened 161 times.
Yeah,
Is that right, Patricia?
Yeah, well, since Christopher died, we've had 756 workers die.
756 in the last 6 years.
Mate, one's too much.
Yeah. So please keep that at the forefront of your mind. If you do know someone that goes through a tragic incident like this or similar, please give them Patricia's details. We then have, let's talk about safety, where Patricia and Rob are constantly on the road. They've dedicated their life to educate not only builders, not only trucking companies, not only CEOs, not only bosses, but employees. It is imperative that whatever workplace you are involved in, that safety comes first. Yep. And this is what this talk is about. You can get Patricia's services to come to your business. They have dedicated their life. They've given up everything for this. We've had the talk at one of my workplaces in the past, and let me tell you, I cannot recommend it enough. Sorry, Bill, can you just take over, mate?
This stuff is real. This stuff is, to be honest, Trish, I used to think people, like a lot of safety officers and a lot of safety procedures that work, obviously try to train their staff on. Like, I thought it was a bit overdone. To be honest,
It's not.
I thought it was a bit overdone. Like,
Can I say one thing about safety officers? I really feel sorry for safety officers and safety managers, because they're the ones getting up in the morning, going to work and praying that everything is going to be fine, that all their workers get to go home every single day. And then when they get home, they thank God that everyone did get home in one piece and that they got to go to see their family every single night. So never, ever, ever, when you're at work, roll your eyes at safety. When someone is telling you about safety protocols and things to do, you need to listen. You need to sit there. Obviously, my talks is about bringing the reality of what tragedy looks like to the forefront of every single worker, so that they can understand that it's a job. Stop risking your life for a job which you are just a number at.
I agree.
Because, you know, the minute something happens to you, if you get injured, you cannot work, you get replaced. If you die, you get replaced. But if you're injured and you go home, your life is different. Your life is never going to be the same. But then if you die, how's your family going to cope? You know, I get workers come up to me and say, Trish, if I speak up, if I say something at work, I get victimized, I might lose my job. Who's going to pay my mortgage? Who's going to feed my family? And I look at them and go, stop for a minute. Just listen to what you're saying. When you die, who's going to look after your family? Who's going to feed your family and pay your mortgage then? You know,
You can always get another job.
we have to say no to unsafe work practices. That's the way it is. And this is what my talks are about, is to make people understand that we need to make our families the reason why we go to work safe every single day, not because of a safety protocol that's been given to you. Make your family the reason why, because that is the only reason why you go to work in the first place.
100%. I agree. Shall we?
All right.
You good, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Look,
Sure.
this we could talk about this for hours. I can guarantee that emotions will still be there. Just this has broken a family.
Yeah,
it's broken a family. If
it's broken many families.
it's
So many families.
Yeah, it's right.
like if you just got to look in the room next door and let's not get it mistaken. Yeah, when I see Patricia and how strong she is, and that's probably a coping mechanism,
Yes,
you
it
could
is.
say, right? But
I'm extremely broken.
yeah, strip those layers down, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll fucking see what's really going on. But Rob, her husband,
Yeah, bro.
mate, I can tell you. So he's never spoken publicly. If you go back to any interview they've done, Rob will probably say 3 words, right? Patricia's the face, right? You're basically his backbone. Can I say that safely?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't do what I do without him.
Without him, just having him there.
I need his
Absolutely.
presence.
Absolutely. You draw strength from him.
We do. We do this together. I may be the voice, but he's my strength.
Yeah. And
I need him
yeah.
there.
When I had my moment and I stepped out and Rob's just next door and he saw me, he just looked at me and he goes, that's why I don't talk.
Especially, bro.
That's why he can't do it. And
But do you know why I do this? In the hope that I can save a life in honour of Christopher.
You're absolutely doing that, and you're doing more, Patricia. And I said it to Rob, mate. Christopher's name is gonna live on, right, for much longer, way past when we go.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, and what a legacy. And this is something that you and Rob need to be proud of. In my eyes, you've done Christopher justice. He might not have got justice with the animals that have done this to him and to your family, but you have done justice to his name.
Yeah.
There's a legacy there now.
I keep him alive.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. And what kills me, there was a couple of, I don't know if you still do this, Patricia, but at a couple of the functions that I was present at, Christopher's work boots that he was wearing on the day are always there present with his hard hat.
100%. They're always with me.
You still do that?
Yeah, 100%.
And
I have a teddy bear which I created called Chris Toolbox Teddy, and carries Christopher's ashes. And he's got Christopher's t-shirt which was cut down to size, and he comes with me everywhere, on every job site.
He's with you all the time. He
Yep.
will never leave you.
Never.
I just want to, like I've said this before, Patricia, I just want to commend you on your strength. I'd call it resilience. It's not, fuck man, not easy going through what you went through and what you and Rob are currently going through. I really do think that you have showed our listeners and our viewers and whoever else out there is watching this that there actually is more to life.
There is.
More to life than than your rugby league team losing to running behind on paying a bill. Or listening to what she said or he said about you. There definitely is more to this world, and I just want to, from part of my heart, and I'm sure if my wife was here, she'd probably say the same thing. Thank you for being so raw and sharing the story with us, and I've definitely taken something a leaf out of this book, and God bless you and Rob, and I'm like, yeah, thank you. Thank you in simple forms. Thank you.
No, thank you for having, given me the opportunity to share on your podcast, and hopefully there's people out there that are understanding that, we all are here. We need to put the human factor back into life, not all this technology, and to just love each other.
Enjoy the moment.
Absolutely.
Just enjoy the moment.
As I said, there is a link in this bio. Please dig deep. Please donate to the Touch by Christopher Foundation and support your fellow blue-collar workers that tragically will meet their fate. And what Patricia does with her team, supporting a broken family at a time of need. This won't be the last we see of you, Patricia. We'll definitely want to collaborate with your organisation, with Touch by Christopher. And we're going to be working on a couple of things to put in place. I can't thank you enough. As Bill said, thank you for coming yourself and Rob. And thank you guys for joining in on another episode. I'm your co-host, Joe.
And I'm Billy.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you guys next week.